Tomorrow.
Well, I mean, tomorrow, I mean, we can rehash ideas that we had before. Is that good enough?
Yeah, thank you. Perfect, perfect. All right. Jeremy, you want to pick the next group?
What about this group right here? Come on up.
I'm going to share just a few highlights of our awesome group up here in the corner. When it came to coordinating, we decided, we came up with some creative ideas about a hub, an artist hub, or a communications hub for artists to facilitate that ongoing communication. An idea was shared of creating an arts mixer where all creatives are invited, and much like tonight where we had 1 minute to talk, the microphone is passed so that they could each share a bit about their enterprises and how what their challenges are and how the collective could come together. We thought about the whole issue of artists being very independent entrepreneurs and the silos that creates, and how we need to create common issues around their concerns so that's what will bring them together. And funding is often one of those common concerns, so how that could be. So I want to just also add an element about our discussion on how the community leaders become involved. And the consensus around our table was it should be an expectation for someone who runs for office, that it should actually happen at every level of our elected officials, from the local all the way up to the president, that there is that expectation that piece of the community would be supported in some way, shape, or form.
Next group. Just want to go right back in line here. The troublemaker group.
I don't know where Don't have to. You don't have to if you're not prepared.
Over here.
All right. We had a lot of good discussion and a lot of exciting discussion. One comment that was made that I think all of us can feel is that the work ahead of us is overwhelming, and what's happening in Kenosha. We see the momentum. We see the wheels starting to turn. How do we get that push forward from there? One thing we talked about a lot that is a prime example of what could be done here was related to the Kenosha Symphony. They are a very strong organization, a wonderful organization, but how do we get the youth, how do we get the public to know they're there and get to see them? And one thing I mentioned as an example was the flash mobs that orchestras do. Get out into the public, expose the public in their space rather than seeing the organization in its stone walls and inaccessible. Get it out there. We can do that with the performing arts. We can do that with the visual arts. It's easy to do. Get it out there. As far as community leadership, Vicki made a very good point of looking at leadership in a different way. Rather than think of our political leaders, look at other leaders who can talk appropriately about the arts to the business leaders, to the community as a whole. Francisco, not to put him on the spot, is a prime example of that. Someone who speaks well about the arts, someone who gets people excited about the arts. He can't do it alone, but if we can get more like Francisco out there talking to if you look west of of Green Bay, we have a lot of big businesses out there right now. Uline, Amazon, for example, get them involved. One of the key things to get anyone involved in the arts is to get them exposed to the arts and understanding the arts more.
Thank you.
I've tried.
All right, round of applause. That was great.
Anybody else want to come up? Next table back.
Okay, our group had quite a lot of themes. One was, why are you here? The big thing was to support the arts, to embrace the arts, to facilitate the arts movement in Kenosha. Everybody's excited. We're on the cusp as a community. I've been here almost 30 years, and you know, I can see that the arts community 30 years ago was very small. I would say almost non-existent, but very, very small. Today it's not very small. It's very diverse. It's exciting. We're on the cusp of great things. It's how to do it and how to keep the energy going and how to do it cooperatively is what's really important. So creativity and growth was a couple of big things. How to get the word out? Word of mouth. It's 80% of any advertising. If you offer a unique experience, it will be talked about. And people will say, hey, I did this great thing. This was an experience. It just wasn't something I did. It was different. It was fun. Creating those types of experiences will create more buzz, will really make the arts community grow even more. So again, there's that excitement, but it has to be unique. Funding is all about awareness and all about asking. You have to show what the return on investment is, and you have to ask what that return on community is. Without awareness and without actually asking, which is always a big step, it's not going to happen. So, you know, we need to be bold. We need to promote ourselves. We need to tell people what we're already doing and what we want to do. Things like this gathering here, this is really important. Not only because we get all like-minded people in the room throwing around ideas, but we got to get what we do here out into the community too. We have to get that word out to everybody. There was a suggestion that we have coffee in Kringle or whatever, you know, maybe once a month at a different art venue in the morning, 8 to 9 o'clock. Visit each other's venues so that we all know, in a very familiar way, each of these venues' stories. Not only what the public sees, but the backstory, the back rooms, all this kind of stuff. What else? Focus on the positive. Attitude is everything.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay. So we talked a lot in our group about how we feel that businesses need to talk more about the arts and the value of art, not just for the community and not just about having art galleries and stuff like that, but the fact that arts in our lives help us with problem solving, help us with creative thinking, and we tend to devalue the arts and take them out of education, take them out of the business place. So how can we get businesses to integrate art more and to see it as a vital part of, you know, having a good community, but also how their employees can be better employees for their situation. So lip service, of course, we talked about unifying the arts scene in the fact of not to the point where we eliminate competition or competition might not be the right word, but eliminate the desire for everybody to get better, because we have a lot of that incentive going on in Kenosha now that we didn't have even 10 years ago when I moved here. So with all the new artists, we've had more growth in the art field. So we don't want to eliminate that, but we want to have a little bit more unification in order to get the word out. One of the things we talked about, for instance, was Second Saturday, and the fact that it's a great idea, but oftentimes, you know, a lot of the businesses downtown close down before people even get to the art galleries, so it makes it very separate events, and then people don't come downtown because they don't see that. Touching on the downtown point, we also talked about the fact that the arts cannot just be central to downtown. I've heard a couple other speakers say that we need to send them out, and not just out into the county, but places like Pershing, you know, Plaza, you know, just everywhere throughout. And along those lines, one thing that I really liked that our group talked about was how do we get new people involved? So a couple people were talking about events. I actually came to I'm just going to say Day of the Dead because I don't know how to say it. Thank you. I came to that here a couple weeks ago, and it was really cool because half the room was Hispanic and half the room were me, white people. So I think this is great, and I think we should absolutely have Kringle and stuff like that. I love that idea, but I also think that we need to find ways that we can integrate other parts of our population And I learned, that's the event that I came to personally, but I learned that there were a couple other events like that held here where it was, largely Hispanic population. And I think we need to reach out into these other parts of the Kenosha population. How do we get them to come to these events and enjoy these things? So that's it. Okay.
You good? One more?
So we touched on a lot of the same things that have already been said. I just thought maybe I'd highlight the question about increasing coordination among similar arts groups. First of all, we said, do more of this. Have a party and have food and booze is what we decided. But, there is some truth to that. Clearly, people like to come together in social settings where they can interact, and that breeds opportunities to talk and ultimately network and think about ideas for collaboration. Someone suggested that when you have a collaborative kind of a process, that you want to ensure that everybody has a piece of the pie. Everybody has equal, maybe not equal levels of participation, but everybody's getting something from the experience. Also, another way to support collaboration is to offer funding for collaborative projects. So if a grant project was being offered and you couldn't apply unless you had a partner, I bet people would find a partner. So, and then we talked a lot about the role of the community leaders. I think that the big thing was people in positions of leadership, to encourage them to attend the arts, to fund it, to encourage collaboration. They need to set an example and listen to people in the community, and then talk about the ideas, inspire a vision, talk about what's going to happen. What is this community, what is Kenosha going to look like 5 years from now as a result of what we're doing today? And so those were the kinds of things, I think.
Okay, so thank you so much for all those who participated. I saw a lot of good discussion, people taking it seriously. All of this information we're going to be collecting. I'm working on behalf of the City Commission on the Arts, and these are questions that were generated from the survey, that areas that people want to see some next steps. They want to see strategies. So we're all ears. So I wanted to take a minute and just introduce whoever is here representing the City Commission on the Arts. If you could just stand up. Okay, so we have Lou Molitor representing the Chamber of Commerce. And Becky Noble is representing the Kenosha Area Business Alliance. And our photographer for the night, Alyssa Nepper. She's our photographer for the night and represents UW Parkside. And was there anyone else? Paul Hagelin? Scott Hagelin. I'm still getting to know everyone. I'm so new to the commission. And also Candy. Thank you. So thank you. Those are the contacts that you just would reach out tonight before you leave if you want to really make your points known on what we can support, how we can support you. We're here to listen and represent your needs and your interests. So I'm going to turn it back to Jeremy. He had some things to say. And yes, and actually, Francisco had a comment, quick.
Before Jeremy closes the night, I just wanted to say something. Actually, I wanted to ask you a favor. When we invited Jeremy, the reason that we invited it, I have the opportunity to go to the Empty Storefronts conference. I think that was a really different experience. I learned so much in that conference. That it's true what he said. But the thing that stick on my mind is that we have right here representatives of the Main Street Program, CAVA, the Chamber of Commerce, the business community, and the artists. We haven't able to talk the language, a common language. I think that Jeremy put that example. Jeremy is having the missing link, the connection that we don't have. That was why this was really important for me. We have some numbers now, and these numbers are from 2011. We're working on the new numbers. The impact of the arts in the community is huge, but it's our fault. Is we as an artist, I blame myself because I think that we haven't able to talk that language. We haven't able to convert it. We still think that supporting the arts is a philanthropic activity. It's not. Supporting the arts is what is changing the community. You can walk, Jeremy mentioned it. You just walk, I came here in 2006. I could walk from 50 to Library Park, and it were empty storefronts. You walk today, you're not going to find a place that is finished. There are some empty buildings that still need work, but it is really hard to find an empty space, and you actually have a vibrant community. Change is happening, and the only way to keep going is with this word of mouth and the working together. I think that we are doing it. So, thank you.
Yeah, I know that I'm between you and the bar, so I probably should make this really quick. I think we heard a lot of things. I always say that our biggest competitor is the couch. If you can get people off it and you can get people active. I hate Netflix. You know, people staying at home and not getting out in the community is the first step, and you guys showed that you came today and did that. I did want to share this 1-minute video of the night market so you guys get a look shot at what goes on here. Whoop. Buffering. Do I have volume? Can you do volume? If not, that's fine. I can. Am I muted? I don't know. Yeah. There we go. Yeah, just about to drop the beat too. Wow. Okay. How are we gonna fund the arts? We can't fund the Wi-Fi. Okay. Well, anyways, you guys. That's what we're trying to do. There we go. Okay, well, you guys get the point. But you saw what you saw right here.
That's the word.
Yeah. Zywave is one of the fastest growing software companies in Milwaukee, and they fund the night market because of the art component to it. Dental Associates moved their headquarters downtown right next to the night market because they want to be close to that experience. So businesses are taking note of this. There's 15 different apartment complexes going in this area now, and someone is going to buy the Grand Avenue Mall. I know it, someone locally, and we're going to change that too. So, again, thank you guys for coming out today. I put my email on there. You guys can email my information out. I'm happy to answer any questions, take any phone calls, and help out any way possible. So, appreciate it.
All right, the bar is open, cash bar. There's food, enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah, just Margie asked me one question, and she was asking me how we're going to follow up with this. And basically, we're going to take all those ideas and we're going to make sure that we will follow up, because that's one of the key elements. We need to continue this conversation. Thank you, guys.
I just like, I hope you have a dad, you know? Oh, okay. That's always like kind of my friend Amanda Nepper, she makes plugs.